Hello, guys. My name is Janeda, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the novel Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. But first of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about Zora Neale Hurston. So, Zora Neale was an American folklorist and writer associated with the Harlem Renaissance, who celebrated the African American culture of the rural South. She was born on January the 7th, 1891 in Notasulga, Alabama, and she died on January 28th, 1960 in Fort Pierce, Florida. She was a very known folklorist and writer who had many collaborations and novels with the irony of their racial identity that was very dominant on her work. In the meantime, she was fighting for the woman to be treated as an equal. She also spent a lot of her time life into the North Carolina College for Negroes by that time, and nowadays it's called North Carolina University. So let's begin with the plot of this novel. This novel tells a story that took place in the late 1920s and the early 1930s in an all black town in Central Florida. This is about the story of Janie Mae Crawford, a black woman who was raised by her grandmother after her biological mother ran away, as she was the result of a sexual abuse that her mother suffered, just as her grandmother did, and both of them were from white people. Her grandmother was from a sheep farmer, and her mother was from a school teacher when she was 17 years old. So as the story goes on, we can see how hard was Jenny's fight for freedom and happiness, even though the end was not as happy as she wanted to. So let's talk about the characters. The first one, Jenny Mae Crawford. She is the main character. As I was saying before, she was raised by by her grandmother after her mother of 17 years old ran away. So she was raising with the idea that marriage was love, that once she gets married, she was about to find out the happiness, and that everything, let's say, would be flowers and rainbows and everything. But that was not the case because she went through three marriages, and we're going to see how this story is going to end for her. Then we have Phoebe Watson. Phoebe Watson was Jenny's best friend. When she came back to her hometown in Youngstown, she came and she basically starts the story or starts the novel saying to Phoebe all the things that she was going through. Nanny Crawford. Nanny Crawford is Janie's grandmother. So as I was saying, she raised Janie, and when Janie was 16, that Nanny saw her kissing a boy, she realized that Janie liked boys, and as she wanted her to be happy, and she didn't want her to suffer all the things that she did and that her mother did. She arranged a marriage with a potatoes farmer whose name was Logan Felix. He was neither attractive, he was not romantic, he was, let's say, the basic man of those times. He was basically the supporter. He was also willing to give anything to her and everything she needs, but he was very controlling. He was the classic man of those days. So after that, Janie meets Joe Starks. He was totally different from Logan. He was he used to dress a good clothes. He was full of dreams. He promised her things that Logan wouldn't ever. give to her. So she decided to leave Logan and marry Joe Starks. He was a dreamer. Then he became the owner of a post office into the all black community. Then he became a mayor. They were together for over 20 years. But what happened? What happens here is that as the years were going on, he was basically suppressing Ginny because he didn't want her to be herself. Every time she tries to explain or say anything, he would stop her. At the beginning, she was fighting back to him, answering or responding to whatever he was trying to say to her. But when the time was going on, she was just basically staying quiet and keeping to herself her thoughts. So then, after Joe Stark died due to a fail on her kidneys, Janie became the owner of the business that they had and the landlord. So by that time, she met Virgil Woods, who was known as TK. TK was a way younger than her, but he used to take care of her. And I could personally say that after she met him was when she was basically near to that so-called freedom and happiness that she was looking for since the very beginning, because he was treating her as an equal. He didn't treat her as an object or as a decoration. He didn't want to punch her or punish her for everything as the others did. But unfortunately, when a storm came to them, he was trying to save her from a rabies dog, and that dog bite him. So when the time was going on, he became sick of rabies and he became paranoid in a way that he even tried to kill her. When he was about to shoot her with a gun, she had to shoot him first. And even though she was taken to adjustment, she was found innocent. So as she missed him so much, she decided to go back to her hometown. And here we have Merce Turner. Merce Turner was a woman that had a store as well, but she didn't like black people. I mean, people with dark skin. She liked those people with dark, light skin. So I could personally say that she was basically that type of racist that is not supposed to be racist. So that's basically part of the story of these characters. So now let's continue with the setting. This story takes place in the community of Edenville, that was one of the first self-governing Black communities in the United States, being incorporated in 1887. This community is where this story begins and where this story ends. As it was the first place where Janie, who is the main character, grew up, and was where she came back to stay. And by the way, where the story ends. The themes. This story teaches us a lot. This is about love, independence, gender roles, race, and racial identity and judgment. Why love? Because Janie was a believer that love will give her freedom, independence. I can say that by that time, Sarah Neil created a character that was very, very independent in comparison to other women, because by that time, women were supposed to be always at home, always under their husband's orders. But Janie was different. Trying to looking for, she was looking for to be herself, to be free, to be happy, to find love, to have basically all the things that most of those women didn't have courage enough to fight for. Gender roles. When we talk about the gender roles, once again, I need to take her as an example because, as I was saying, she fought for all the things that the women by that time were not supposed to. And when it comes to race and racial identity, during this novel, we can see that the author highlights the treatment between white and black people and between the black community of those days, because the abuses of her grandmother and her mother were coming from black men. And when it comes to racial identity, it means when, for me, especially when Jenny was 6 years old, that she didn't realize that being black was something that was not good by that time. Judgment. When we talk about the judgments, Jenny was judged and criticized by her neighbors when she came back home alone. You know that always people's going to talk about things they don't know. And as they didn't know about her story, which she started to say to Phoebe, they start talking about her and gossiping about her. So, my personal point of view, for me, this is a very dramatic novel because even though this was written a very long time ago, this novel shows a lot from nowadays relationships and communities because it was told based on the story of a black woman fighting to find happiness and freedom. And I can personally say that most of the women of the world has a Janie inside because we are all pursuing happiness, freedom, independency, and so much more things. And we are not willing to give up until we reach them, as she did. Maybe not in the way that she wanted to because of what happened to TK, but at least she fought. And at the end, she was free. She was able to breathe. She was able to be herself um, without taking care of what the people could say about her. At the end, I can say that she could get most of the things that she was fighting for. So thank you so much for your attention. This is my thank you dance. I hope you enjoy this little review that I have from this amazing novel. There is a movie and which lasts for about an hour and a half more or less, and I'm going to see it, so I can recommend it to you as well. I was seeing some trailers and things, so I recommend you to see it. This is a very very interesting novel, and this was a very interesting story about fighting love and how independence can we be if we propose it for us. So thank you so much, and that will be all. Have a wonderful day.